Hello, Nick family. Welcome to the Queen's Court. I'm your host, Stephanie, aka Queen. And as always, we have so much to talk about. I'm joined by Tony Crowe of Knicks and Bruises, Geoff Klafter of the Happily Ever Klafter Daily Sports Blog, and then DJ Shuttle. Y'all know what it is. How's everybody?
Great.
I'm glad to be
All
back,
right.
Queen. I'm glad to be back.
When I hear that intro music, I just feel like I haven't heard it in a while. So I was just instantly in playoff mode right there for a second. I was just like here, like, oh, let's go. That's Jay Boogie, right?
Yeah.
Nah, shout to Jay
No,
Boogie.
No, that Sim did that one.
Oh, shout to Sim. I might
Sim did
he
that
might
one.
bring me out of retirement. I might have to spit a few balls or something. That's fine.
Yeah.
Shuttle, I need an intro still. You know what I mean?
Okay. Nah, I'll put something together. Pull a pen out of retirement.
See what you could do for my guy. Man, we got so much to talk about. Tom Thibodeau passing Pat Riley fourth on the franchise coaching list. Second 50, back-to-back 50 win seasons with Jalen Brunson missing 15 or 16 games. That's significant. OG blowing up offensively. Is this just a stretch or is he leveling up for real? We'll talk about that. We'll talk about going into the playoffs. What's the magic number again, Geoff?
1
for the third seed?
1.
One win or one loss by who?
Pacers,
yep.
Pacers. And the Knicks clinched the third. So we'll talk about when we do clinch the third. We'll revisit the minutes conversation and what we would like Tom Thibodeau to do once we clinch the third spot. And are we locked into Detroit or Milwaukee yet, or still not set?
They played
still not set. So we'll talk a little bit.
Game, so we're not going to know that probably till season's over.
Yep.
Twice. Yeah, he said twice in the next game, the next 2 games.
All right. Okay. Shout out to Anthony D. Appreciate you. So then we'll talk about, I think we'll revisit the question of who we would like to play in the playoffs and why. But let's start with last week. The Knicks were 3-1. They beat the Sixers. They beat the Hawks. They beat Phoenix. Jalen Brunson returned for the Phoenix game. We'll definitely talk about that and how he looked. But then there was that loss to Cleveland. How significant was the loss to you, given where the roster was? We did have a 15-point lead in that in the first half. OG with 19 points, and I think he had like 4 or 5 in the second half. Anyway, how significant was the loss to you? And by that I mean, are you feeling like, damn, we can't beat this team for nothing? Or are you feeling like encouraged by the 15-point lead and getting our guys back? DJ Shuttle, we're gonna start with you.
Appreciate that. Ready with the smoke. Listen, you done lost so many games to these top tier teams at this point. Some players weren't playing. The fact that there was a 15-point lead early did give me some some reason to feel like, all right, at full strength when it really matters, we got smoke for these guys. But when the playoffs start, man, it's 0-0. And there's some guys here that already sent Cleveland packing just a couple of years ago. So, I think there's going to be one of those things where a team potentially has your number. And I like to believe, even though they've had a phenomenal season, should we see the Cavs, we got your number, fam. And, it's going to be what it's going to be. And I'm not tripping about that last loss. I'm tripping more about losing all the games to Boston and to the Cavaliers prior to that than I really am about that particular game. So, 0-0 when these playoffs start. Boy, Cavs, we see you. We going to see you.
Yeah. Geoff, then Tony.
I hope we see him because that means we're in the Eastern Conference Finals and we just beat Boston. So I love the optimism from Shuttle. I want to be on aboard that train. I guarantee you. But no Mitch, no Jalen. I'm not going to put any stock in. I mean, a win would have been nice, but it's like playing with house money in that game. Second night of a back-to-back on the road. Yeah, I'm not going to lose any sleep over that one. I didn't expect that we'd win the game, so it was nice that we at least competed for a little bit. And I know some people are going to get real upset about it, and we have 50 wins. We're doesn't really matter which games you win and which ones you don't. This isn't you don't get to the playoffs based on strength of schedule. This isn't the NCAA tournament. It's number of wins, and doesn't matter who they're against. And and as we've seen, you can dominate a team in the regular season, and then when it gets to the playoffs, it can be a different animal. When you can zero in, you can prep, maybe you're more healthy, whatever the case may be. But you can count countless examples of teams that are like, yeah, we want this matchup, and then when the smoke comes, they don't want it so much anymore. So I'm hoping that that's the case for the Knicks, because I'd really like to see this team make a deep run.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, this game, that game really didn't do anything for me. Just number one, I felt like we can beat, if we're gonna beat one of those two teams, it would be Cleveland. Unfortunately, we don't see them first if we see them at all. So it didn't really change anything. They were the closest game that we were in the one OKC game that we were in anyway, against those top three teams anyway. So if I gave anybody us a chance against any one of the top three, it would have been Cleveland over OKC and over Boston. So yeah, didn't really do nothing.
Yeah. I kind of have mixed feelings on it. Like, a part of me is encouraged that, like, wow, without, we were missing significant pieces, and we had a 15-point lead in the first half. And then another part of me is like, but that's what good teams do. They come back, at 15-point lead, they come back, and then they win by 15, 20. Like, so I kind of have mixed feelings about where we are with Cleveland, and there's no way to know until we meet them in the playoffs. Brunson made his return Sunday against Phoenix. How did he look to you? Do you think they rushed him back so that he could be eligible for postseason wins, or do you think was just ready to come back? Period. Tony, then Shuttle, then Geoff.
The talks was all about the clutch award, which he doesn't have to play 65 games to win. So I would think the organization knew that anyway. I would think Brunson knew that anyway. So I don't think there was a rush. I think if there's a rush, it's really just to kind of come into the playoffs playing, as opposed to starting the playoffs, off without having those reps. You know what I mean? So I think the reps is more important, especially with the emergence of OG and just like we haven't been whole all year. You know what I mean? Like Mitch comes back, he goes out. You know what I mean? So it just the importance of having us as a whole for some segments of games, however many games it ends up being. I think that's more important than just kind of rushing them back for an individual premise.
Right. He doesn't need 65 for the clutch award, but for
Everything
first
else,
team
yeah.
or like all NBA team,
Okay.
he definitely would need it. And I do think he's going to make one of the all. I would be surprised, I should say, if he doesn't make one of the all NBA teams. Shuttle, but how did he look, Tony? Before I move to Shuttle.
I mean, I like that he didn't push. He didn't force anything. It looked as though, you know what I mean, he was seeking out OG in times, like referring in a sense. I don't like that he only took 9 shots, but I don't think that will continue at all. You know what I mean? So the fact that he played 34 minutes and you know he didn't have his best shooting performance. He did get to the line, so that I think 10 times. So that was encouraging. You know what I mean? Like everything
Absolutely.
else is really about their game reps and getting back in rhythm and things like that. So yeah, I like that he's back and he's getting the reps. He obviously, he didn't have a standout game, but it's important to get him back now.
He did hit that clutch 3 though.
He did.
He did
Yep.
hit that clutch 3.
He definitely did.
Yeah.
He definitely did.
Just a
Unfortunately,
reminder.
wait, wait. I gotta correct you though, because of the point differential, it's not gonna count as clutch points because it was already it was wait, it was at 5 when he hit it, right? Or
it was a 7-point game when he hit it.
Okay, so yeah, it don't count. It got to be 5 points. So unfortunately, it won't count as clutch points.
But it was clutch in the real world, though.
Yes, absolutely.
It was clutch in the real world. Yeah.
They were definitely establishing some momentum at that point.
For sure.
Yes.
So, if you're Brunson and you're seeing the ascension of OG, and more importantly, you're seeing how the ball is swinging and moving around, kind of sort of how it did early in the beginning of the season for a nice stretch.
Good point.
Hopefully you watching this and you're like, yo, I can't be the guy that's slowing the ball up. I gotta, the way the ball is moving is looking good. I gotta come out there and not be the new Randall. You know what I mean? You don't want to be don't become the new Randall. You know what I mean? Because low key you've been kind of the new Randall. You know what I mean? But you clutch, so your percentages is good. So I don't really want no smoke with you, but you low key been the new Randall. So you come back, you move the ball around, and it's a great way to bring yourself back into the fold. You know what I mean? You don't just come in a room like, yo, bop, 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 dribble, dribble, dribble. That's not what we needed you to do. So you came back, you did the right thing, you handled the business, you got the OG doing OG things the way he's been continuing to do them. And it was a great segue to come back to the team. So I was incredibly encouraged by that. And contrary to what I think Tone believes, I'm hoping we see more of that. And we save your heroics when we really need them in the clutch, in the fourth quarters, and in the final 5 minutes of games. But in the meantime, let's spray that thing around and let's get busy. As far as the injury and the return, though, I do believe that it's been 30 days. I mean, typical ankle injuries are 3 to 4 weeks. And if it's high ankle sprains, it's maybe like 6 to 8 weeks. So, being that we didn't hear high ankle sprain, I'm going to assume it's a regular sprain. And to come back in 30 days from a sprained ankle, I think it's reasonable. However, I think it's also reasonable to say they trying to make sure that boy come back and get that award too. So, it's important for him. It's important for the perspective of how you look at the franchise. It's important for, bringing in new players to the teams. Like, yo, you could be an All-NBA player here. Yo, my guy got it back to back. Cat is probably going to get one too. So, this is a look. And even if he came back and was playing low minutes, I would have been for it because, for only 4 or 5 games, to just, play a couple of minutes to get that award out, and listen, hey, get that award, fam.
Yeah. I don't think they rushed him back either. I think he was ready to come back. I'm glad he is back. I think the chemistry is important too. I forgot who said it on the panel. We haven't been whole all season. One person in, the next one is out, and even if we are whole, we're whole for 3-4 games before, someone is, is out again. Hopefully, he sees it, but I will say this. It's not just the fourth quarter. In the playoffs, there might be times in the second quarter when we, things stall and we can't, get anything going. And that's his time to, to go to work. But to your point, Shuttle, is about picking your spots and when do I need to assert myself. But at the same time, you can't be too lackadaisical where they feel like they don't even have to bother with you at all. So he has to find that balance. My experience watching the playoffs is that a lot of players who are hot and looking good in the regular season, once that intensity turns up and that defense turns up, a lot of times they go missing in action, and it is on that star player to generate points. So hopefully it doesn't get to that. Hopefully the way we've seen the team function right now is the way they function, in the playoffs. We played
Can I add
16
something?
games without Brunson, correct? Yes, sure.
I just wanted to add. Last year, the best OG we saw was actually in the playoffs prior to his injury, and I feel like what I mean. That's an encouraging sign as far as I don't know if he was prefacing OG like kind of taking a step
Oh,
back.
and no, not OG.
Okay,
Everybody.
like the good thing,
and we're gonna talk about OG. We have a segment on OG where we'll talk about him more.
fair enough.
But I wasn't talking about him. I'm just talking about just in general the
General.
entire team. And so sometimes your star player is needed to step up in those moments when things are not going as planned. But go ahead, you can finish your OG point.
I mean that was pretty much it. The best OG last year that we saw was when we hit the playoffs. Like he was on a tear,
Correct.
and it's very similar to what we're seeing from him currently in a like 20 game stretch or whatever. So I just wanted to point out how encouraging that was. That we may see this level sustained, if not better, in the playoffs. You know what I mean? But go ahead. We got a whole segment, like you
You're right.
said.
We got to yeah. So we were 10-5. We played 15 games without Brunson, right? I believe it was 15 games, and the Knicks were 10-5 without him. What did you learn about the team in his absence, or what did you learn about? Is there a particular player you learned about? Is this something about Tibbs you learned about the team overall? Geoff, we'll start with you this time. When Brunson was out, what did you learn about the team?
Well, what I learned is that the culture is working. The Knicks tend to play their best ball come the last segment of the regular season. You can just see a development, and it wasn't just the Brunson injury because Deuce McBride missed a bunch of those games as well. You
Correct.
had Mitchell
Facts.
Robinson was not playing the second game of back-to-back for being that, whatever you think about it, but so
Campaign too.
Campaign went down with an injury in that stretch, and so you're down to your fourth and fifth string point guards, and they come in, and DeLon Wright, he's been banished to the end of the bench for eternity, and all of a sudden he comes in and he starts and he sparks with a fantastic defensive effort, and it was his revenge game in the first quarter against the Bucks. He had 10 of our first 20 points or something like that. Really stepped up and did a great job, and in fact, made it to the point where Kolek, who played well, he kind of took over those minutes even when we got one of our guards back. So really impressive performance by Wright, because Kolek didn't play poorly at all in any of his time on the court. They just bring different aspects of the game. Kolek, I think, is much better seeing the floor and making plays. Wright is stout defensively, and I think he really meshes really well with that first unit. And if you're prioritizing getting stops, having Wright in that lineup just really makes that group work very well. And it kept Tyler in a comfortable role because he's not used to playing more than 17, 18 minutes a game yet anyway. And so I think in a sense we maximized both players when we needed them most. And not very many teams can say we're playing our fourth and fifth string point guard for multiple games and we're getting good production. I mean, I think that speaks to the depth, I think it speaks to the culture about staying ready. And when it's your turn and when your number's called, you just do the best you can in the minutes that you're given, and you roll with it. And you don't make excuses. You don't do any of that stuff. You just go and you punch hard, and you fight your way through it. And that's what the Knicks did. They punched hard and they fought their way through it. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't against the best competition, but you can only fight the guy who's in the ring with you, right? You can't worry about the folks that aren't. So, I mean, maybe we caught a break with that, but there's a lot of teams that in similar situations that fold up like a picnic table. So I really am impressed with the mental fortitude of this team and how they tend to improve as the season goes along and start playing their best basketball when it matters. And to be able to do that regardless of who's in the lineup says a lot about this team, the Cleveland game notwithstanding, and they had a couple of clunkers in there against San Antonio and Charlotte that were head scratching, frustrating, all of the things, whatever words you want to use. But overall, just an impressive stretch. Mikal Bridges stepped up and took on more of a scoring role. OG's been phenomenal the last 10 games. I mean, we'll talk more about him, but really just everybody picking it up a level and picking up the slack, because you can't replace Jalen Brunson with one guy. But if everybody does a little bit more, you can survive. And that's what they did. And that's what this regular season's about, is surviving.
Yeah. And to piggyback on your point about culture, Tom Thibodeau has his pecking order, whether you agree with it or you disagree with it. But when he says next man up, he really means next man up. Whoever you are, we was down to Charlie Brown last season. He was the next man up. And it seems to me, and I don't know this for a fact, that he empowers them. Like that he believes them. Like, if you're the next one up, we got enough. We got enough. Stay in your role, play to your strengths, right? Decrease, your stay away from your weaknesses or try to mitigate your weaknesses, play to your strengths. We have enough. And how many times have we seen whoever that next man up was come in and produce for us? Like, that does speak to culture.
And if I could just piggyback off your point, Queen, because I wanted to mention both of them, but to focus on the Thibodeau philosophy of staying ready. You know what I mean? Like 15th man, Delon Wright was, and then come in and start, and the team seemingly not miss a beat. I mean, arguably, because this is my point, the defense was the biggest thing that stood out in this stretch. 7th ranked defense in this stretch without Brunson, and there is some correlation, obviously. You know what I mean? And you got the 15th guy stepping in to start, but his strength being defense helping. And then there was an argument for Kolek to start, right? Like, a lot of people had that conversation, but when Cam went out,
we did.
And shout out to Tibbs. He went with the veteran, the experience, the defense, the things that fit his philosophy. And then shout out to Delon Wright for contributing and stepping into that role and being ready. So I think, but defense for me is the biggest thing in that stretch, not putting all the correlation with Brunson's absence.
Right.
But the defense leading to offense. We'll talk more about that with OG, of course.
Yeah. DJ Shuttle.
Yeah.
What did you learn about the team in particular, or Tibbs, or any particular player when Brunson was out for those 15 games?
No, I learned that Wright should be the backup point guard. That's what I learned.
Wow, over Cam?
Yes, that's what I learned. Wright should be the backup point guard. Because he provides better size and length for switches, which the team does all the time. So having Cam and Deuce together, like, I'm not saying this, it's not working at all, but I don't think it'll work less with Wright in there, and it's not like Cam is providing consistent enough lights out scoring and shooting that makes me say we got to keep him in the game. You know what I mean? Deuce is giving us enough for the offense. You know, Precious has his moments on offense, and you usually got one or two of the starters that are in there with the rest of that unit. So for the stability that I think that he brings on offense, I trust him more than I trust Campaign on offense. Bringing the ball up, getting the offense started, I trust him more, and that's not only because of these few games. It's because I've watched him in the past. I've seen him, and he's been a steady guy his whole career. Not flashy, not fabulous. He's not a do too much guy that you got to reel in. He knows how to be a vet and kind of set things up. And I'm thinking about the defense. Not to say that I need knock on Cam, but when I think of him and Deuce coming in against some backups or even against starters, I don't feel like that you lose anything. In fact, you might be improving your defense by putting him and Deuce in if you need some stops and you need to slow down somebody. And yeah, I mean, like that's what I learned. I would put Cam, and he'd be in a glass, and I would break him in case of emergency. And if you need a shooter to come in, McCouse is not hitting shots, Brunson's having an off night. All right, cool. Yo, we need some scoring. Yo, let's see if Cam's hot tonight. He comes in, his first 3-4 threes. All right, cool. He did we needed. He knew what we needed to do because in the playoffs, you typically have in a series a game where someone is not expected to perform has a game like that. And so I'd have him on the bench for a game. I'd have him on the bench for a game like that. And I would trust DeLon Wright and value his defense a lot more right now.
You forgot to mention Shamit and his size. That's the biggest thing with Wright that I like is the size, because not only is Cam not tall, but we're also playing Deuce and we're playing Shamit in that second unit. So to have that 6'5" guy at the one as opposed to all under 6'3" or under.
Facts.
Wow. Wow. I like DeLon Wright. But I like Campaign's playoff experience. I like that shooting off the bench. Scoring is really hard to come by in the playoffs. Somebody that can create their own shot. Yeah, that's a tough one. But I do hear what you're saying in terms of DeLon Wright and his defense and the switchability and having that size out there instead of going with three guards. Right, when we have Deuce, Shamit, and who's the other one?
Cam.
Campaign. Like, yeah. So I don't know. Maybe Thibodeau, we'll mix it up a little bit. When we need offense, go with Cam. If we need defense, go with DeLon Wright. If I had to guess, I would say Campaign is going to remain the backup point guard. If I had to guess, but
I'd agree with you.
And I think
at least he saw it.
I just want to add. That's exactly what I was going to say. What DeLon Wright did in his time was earn some trust in Thibodeau's eyes, that Thibodeau wouldn't hesitate to go to him if there's an injury or if he just feels like he needs to shake it up a little bit. And I think that was good because Tibbs, he gotta trust you. He ain't gonna just come in blind and just throw you in unless it's a next man up situation. So he was able to do that and gain that trust. So I think we will see him in spots in the playoffs. I'd be surprised if he supplants Cam. I wouldn't be Cam. I wouldn't be mad, though. I'd be surprised.
I got to just also add, Steph, for those who are not familiar with DeLon Wright and say, oh, what's he done, yada, yada. Last season, he was on the Miami Heat. He did play in the Boston series. He got significant minutes, 32, 29, 20, and 26 minutes in 4 games against Boston. He shot 60% from the field. And we know that he's a reliable defensive player. He had 2 steals in one game, 2 steals in another game. He doesn't really turn the ball over. And, that's the level of like steady
that you need in the playoffs.
That you need in the playoffs. And Cam, again,
he come down and jack it up.
Cam is a little, he a little with that shot right now. And to my
That's
point, like,
fair. That's fair.
he's not hitting it consistent enough, and then when you think about, the size and the switchability, the things on defense, his shooting
Yeah.
inconsistencies.
Hmm.
Now, like, listen, before Wright got here, it's like, all right, cool. It's kind of the best of the best. Kolek, yo, you chill out. We get you ready for next season. You got your red shirt year. Cool. But now you got a vet. And this is why your fifth guard is always, it's always great when you got a vet fifth guard like this, so that when the playoffs come, they can they can give you the stability and the cool out, type of
Yep.
energy and vibe that the team needs. So I'm going all in. I already said it, Steph. I
Yeah.
think I think Rice gonna get some minutes, and it might not be game one of the playoffs, but rest assured, if Cam keep doing what he's been doing the last couple of weeks, Rice gonna be getting his minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen. Yeah. Thank you for reading those stats against against Miami. I've seen Cam in the playoffs, right? Multiple times. So yeah, thank you for refreshing my memory, because you do need steady guys in the playoffs. The level, it's not even like people say, oh, it's just the same. It's not the same. That intensity just ratchets it up a little bit.
And
Go
the
ahead.
not making a mistake and making a mistake could be crucial, way more crucial in this playoff series. Jacking up a bad shot as opposed to maybe not taking a shot, but making the right pass is like those two things. I see your point, Shuttle. I just think
Yeah.
it's going to be Cam's to lose
Right.
before it becomes an
And you see,
adjustment.
the Cam that we saw last year is exactly the Cam that I'm suggesting that the team plays him in the same role. He
Mm.
wasn't supposed to be that guy last year in the playoffs. He wasn't playing a lot of minutes initially,
He
but then
wasn't.
but then it was like, what can we do? What should we do? All
Grasping
right,
for
Cam,
sure.
Cam, get out there, do something. And then he had a couple of games where he did something. And to me, that's how you use him best at this point. And Tibbs, make the call.
But you know what? DeLon Wright didn't play last game, right? So I mean, I think that lets you know where Tibbs is for now, and that's what he usually does with situational guys. He
Mhm.
uses them, and then when the rotation is back to where it was, they tend to go back to being situational. I do think though that he will see time in the playoffs. I'm not sure about consistent minutes though. We'll see. Geoff, any thoughts on it?
What I like about what Shuttle said, and is really sharp as usual, is defensively. It's such a good point of attack defender, and that's a weakness of Jalen Brunson's. Let's just be honest. And so when you can put somebody in there and with Deuce, who's the size of a point guard, but the length wingspan of more of a wing, you can put those two guys together and you can switch everything. You have a lot of flexibility. You have a lot more dynamism, and he's a steadying influence. I mean, he's not going to wow you. He's not going to make some crazy break you down, break your ankles move or anything like that. But the Knicks don't need that. We've got plenty of guys who can score. If he's going to be in the lineup, you can rely on it. I don't think he's going to see any time unless other people get hurt, but it's good to have. I mean, I didn't think Alec Burks was going to play in last year's playoffs either, and he played 25 minutes in Game 7. So you never know what's going to happen. You just have to stay ready, and it's good to get something good out of Jericho Sims finally.
Shots fired.
I will say that DeLon Wright or Cam. If Tibbs goes 8, who would the 3 be? I think definitely would be Mitch and McBride. Who would that last person be?
Probably Shamit too at this point. I probably would think Shamit is the guy ahead of him. I think so. I do think so. He lets Shamit ball handle. I've noticed that as of late. Shamit's kind of been on a tear as of late, as far as actually hitting his shots, and I think the confidence, the belief in Shamit is evident, considering they kept him through the injury, as opposed to giving that spot to somebody, and then they could have gave that spot to somebody and brought him in the same way they brought in PJ Tucker. Nope, they reserved his spot for the duration when they knew he was in recovery. So I think that alone shows that they have a role for him. They see a role for him. So I think Shamit is locked in, unless he loses it. But initially, I think Shamit is. But I think we go 9, to be honest, to start. It's really about who's the ninth man might only be getting 5-8 minutes. You know what I mean? But I think we go 9 to start. It dwindles as the playoffs go on.
Yeah.
Or rotates. You know what I mean? That ninth guy might not be the same from game to game or series to series.
Yeah, the 8th and ninth guy, particularly the ninth guy, probably on less than 10 minutes. And the 8th guy, I don't know, maybe 12 to 15. Maybe 12 to 15. Yeah, we'll see. All right. Anything else about last week? Anything else about Brunson's return? Anything else about what we've seen from the team in his absence? Well, we'll talk about that later. I think we talked about that. Personally, I don't have any concerns about Jalen Brunson coming back and messing up what we had when he was out, because the bottom line is he stirs the drink. Like, he's the head of the snake. Yeah. And that's just the bottom line. And so hopefully, he finds that balance, like we talked about earlier in the show, about when he could do his thing, or when he should do his thing. But he has to stay aggressive too, and so can't be too passive. But at the same time, you want to move the ball. So it's going to be interesting. Anything else on whatever we've talked about so far?
I just want to add, we were all kind of saying if we went 500 without Brunson, we would be all right with that.
And we went 5 games over 5. That's impressive.
It was 9-7, Steph. That was the record.
It was 9-7?
Yes.
Really?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about, 2 accomplishments for the Knicks. The 50-win season.
Back-to-back.
And then back-to-back 50-win seasons. And then Tom Thibodeau passing Pat Riley for franchise wins for the Knicks. And now he's 4th behind
Jeff Van Gundy. He coming
Jeff
for
Van
it.
Gundy. Yeah, that'll be next season. And then was it Lapchek and
Holtzman.
And Holzman.
A long way for Holtzman.
Yeah. Yeah. If the fans have anything to say about it, he won't even pass Van Gundy. Anyway, let's start with the 50-win game. Is it significant? And well, I should put it, what is the significance of a 50 win season? Shadow?
I don't know. I think it's relative to what your expectations are as a team and what your journey is throughout the season.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of new moving parts to this team this year. Ihart left with Mitch, who knows when he's coming back. And I think that played a factor into making the deal for Towns, because you have no center at that point. So, you got a new player in Towns, you got a new player in Bridges, you got Mitch out. Shamit was likely going to have a significant off the bench role. He's out for weeks. Precious is out for weeks to start the season. So, for this particular team, considering all those factors, everything that they battled through, Brunson being out also, It's 15, 16 games. It's a lot, but for the general public, 50 wins is looked at as a significant number. In basketball, you had in baseball, you hit 300. That's considered a great, or a really good season batting. You win 10 games in football. It's like, okay, you got 10 wins. You competing. You know what I mean? And I think from that standpoint, that while I can understand the perspective of delusional fans thinking that you traded 5 picks for Bridges and you got Towns and you got Brunson. This should be a 60-win team that's beating all the top teams in the league. And I get it, but at the same time, you got to mesh together. It takes some time to get some cohesion. The best teams that usually win it all have some good fortune with health, which this team has not had this season. So, I think in the grand scheme of things, 50 wins is to be respected. Back-to-back wins is definitely to be appreciated, even more than respected. And the fact that, the team is on a trajectory to be a 50-plus win team for the next 3 to 4 seasons, the level of stability and just where the team is at, considering where the team was, you know what I mean, a few years before, or let's just say pre-Tibbs, pre-Leon Rose, the team is just like sometimes you gotta just appreciate where you at, not be over focused on where you want to be. You know what I mean? The journey and the process is something to it's something to it's something to relish, and it's something to just not overlook. You know what I mean? And yeah, I mean, you can't have cohesion if you hurt. So, and that's part of why you got to relish and respect the 50 wins this year, because Mitch is out near 60 games.
games.
Brunson's out 16 games.
Month.
Precious misses like the first 15 games. Same for Shaman, 10, 15 games at the beginning. So, I mean, you got all of those minutes out, and you got all new players. It's like you can't just snap your fingers. This ain't 2K. You understand? Like, you got to actually be out there, practice, play together, learn each other, and develop habits as a team that puts you in a place where you become one of the best teams in the league, tier one best, because right now Knicks is at tier 2. So
Facts. Yep.
I respect the 50 wins tremendously.
Given everything you just mentioned, yeah, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Geoff.
Well, I think it's probably a good time to kind of go back and look at what our expectations were when the season began. And I think, we're at 50 wins now. We've got 4 games to go. I think, most of us, I had us about 54 wins, so it's a little bit below that. But again, when I made the 54 win prediction, we still had Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo, and then the cat trade kind of turned everything up on its head. And he did a phenomenal job. And we had to learn to win basketball games a different way. We didn't even have training camp, a full training camp with Cat, right? It was like, boom, he was like thrown into the fire, and we're just kind of figuring it out on the fly. But what's impressive to me about 50 is a baseline of competence, right? This is only the second time in 30 years that we've had back-to-back 50-win seasons. And,
Wow.
that speaks volumes as to the lows of the franchise. But think back, and I thought of this because with the Suns coming to town, a lot of Kevin Durant to the Knicks chatter was in the air over the weekend. But think back when he and Kyrie both signed in Brooklyn, and he said, being a Knick isn't cool. And we were just coming off of a 17-win season. And look at us now. Look at us now. Look at the growth. Look at the progression. Look at what happens when you have serious people in the right roles, doing their job, analyzing things correctly, having the right staff, having the right salary cap guy, having all of those things, identifying the proper targets to get in the draft and free agency. All of those things. Now, they haven't been perfect, but no front office is.
Right.
But it really reminds me of the Knicks that you and I and Shuttle and Tony grew up with. The 90s Knicks were this. Like, we expected to go to the second round of the playoffs every year.
Right.
Like,
right.
You weren't in the second round. What's wrong? Like, that was the brilliance of Patrick Ewing. Like, he was a ticket to the second round of the playoffs. Like, that's what he did. And so, I think in a lot of ways, Jalen Brunson is that. He's a ticket to the second round of the playoffs. We still have to get there this year, but I have a lot of confidence in that. So I think that when you do something you haven't done in a long time like that, I think there's a significance to it. That doesn't mean that that's the end goal. Like, nobody wants to say, okay, we're 50 wins. We can just pack up the truck, like, close it down. Right. No, we want so much more than that. But it's a
baseline. It's a baseline.
So
like you said, of competence.
First, you get to where you're at least in the play-in, right? You got to be in the top 10. Then you secure your spot and make sure you're in the top 6, so you don't have to worry that you're in the play-in. Then you secure a home court advantage in the first round of the play. That's all a journey, as Shuttle said. It's all a process, and we check mark a lot of boxes along the way. Thanks. And I think in our calculus, everybody in here in Knicks Nation's calculus, I don't know that any of us thought that the Cavs would be a 60-win team. Like, if you thought that, I salute you. That's awesome. But with a brand new coach and a roster that never really figured it out until this year, in my opinion, I think that's kind of the wild card in all of this. And other than that, we're pretty much right where most people's goals were to start the season. I mean, and so, I'd like to see us get at least 52 wins. If, why not get 54? But if we could get to 52, I think that would be an excellent number. And, anytime you can get Pat Riley lower in the Knicks record book, I'm all for it. So way to go, Tibbs. Let's get him further down the list, and he'll pass. I am confident he'll pass Van Gundy next year. And then, that's rarefied air. I mean, you got to respect the part. It's not a 76ers process, but respect the whole thing that James Dolan said. I'm going to step out of the way. I'm going to hire people that know what they're doing. I'm going to build this based on relationships and building a core, a foundation of things that make basketball sense. And they've done all those things. And, and we were lucky to get Jalen Brunson in some form or fashion, and he popped bigger than probably most people expected. But I'm not sure that OG and McCall don't have a similar pop left in them, and we may be witnessing the OG one now, and we'll get that in a minute. But I think there's meat on the bone for Mr. Bridges too.
Yeah, I agree. Tony, do you think the 50 wins is significant for the team, the organization, or both? You're muted.
Pardon me. For me, it's more significant for the organization. Like Geoff pointed out, I was going to say the same thing. You know what I mean? It's 95, the last time we had back-to-back 50-win seasons. That is, to me, this is really about the regime. This is another trophy or another accomplishment on the regime to show, no, things are different. This is not the Knicks from the past 20 years, 30 years or so. This is back to 30 years prior when we were good. We didn't win, but we were good. You know what I mean? With expectations year in and year out. And to me, it's more about that. And then to piggyback on the, where Thibodeau is on the coaching ranking, right behind Van Gundy, just passing Pat Riley. Those are the only two coaches in my life that were about winning consistently. Woodson did a great job. that was a year. You know what I mean? Or you know what I mean? That was really a year. You know what I mean? Where he did that where it was a reminder of what it used to be. But it's really about the Pat Riley days for me
Right.
and the Van Gundy days. I didn't really
Facts.
see anything prior to that. And for him to be past Pat Riley and on the verge of passing Van Gundy, two coaches that quit on us, by the way, even though I still got a little bit of love for Van Gundy, but Shuttle, you reminded me he quit on us. You know what I mean? I forgot about that just because it was so good during his tenure. Yeah, I'm for Tibbs to go get that next, you know what I mean, surprise Van Gundy and keep doing what he's doing. But yeah, the 50 wins for me is more about the organization and it just signifying this is not the old Knicks. You know what I
Right.
mean? Put the world on notice. Y'all can pay attention again. You know what I mean? You can't just throw out narratives that applied 5 or 6 years ago, 10 years ago. Those narratives do not apply anymore. You got to look at the start of Leon Rose getting here and judge from that to now and look at the trajectory. And then you have appreciation. And even for some Knicks fans, it's hard. You know what I mean? And I'll admit that it's hard for us to forget the dark days. You know what I mean? Or not let it trigger us in a certain loss or with a
Right.
certain move. But this regime is different.
Tone, for those longtime Knicks fans, you mentioned Van Gundy quitting. Now, for the record, and please someone correct me if I'm wrong, his decision to leave did coincide with your current owner kind of becoming more entrenched into his position and kind of flipping around how things were being handled from an ownership to management to coach, process. He had a guy that was a GM, Checkets, that he could rely on that, kept him in a position where he could just coach. But then it seemed like, ownership became a little too unbearable and unable to know how to control themselves and being uncontrollable. And he said, you know what, this is just too much. I can't do it.
Listen, you can make the same supportive argument for Riley because he wanted to have both jobs. And me at the time, I thought he deserved it. Give the man what he wants to stay. You know what I mean? So you can make the argument ownership is the reason both of those guys quit. But it doesn't take away the fact that they quit. But I agree. You know what I mean? Like I didn't put the context in there, and I'm one of the people that always says context is important. I agree.
So I'll make sure the people that may not even have the backdrop to that story, is just, fully informed.
You're muted, Queen.
I agree with the culture aspect of it, and you know, it's important for an organization to stockpile these awards. Like it's important. 50-win season. We got 2 players for the All-Star games, All-Star starters. We got all NBA players. All of that is good for the success of the league. It's good for recruiting, and it's good for free agency. It's good for retaining players as well when they come up for free agency. And what I want to highlight with the front office was the patience. They was too patient for me though, but I get it. I get it. Um, the patience that Tony many a nights, right?
But think about it, Queen. You could argue patience was the problem of years past because we had none.
Right. Correct.
Everything was a quick fix.
Correct. I
Don't
thought they
think
was a bit too slow though, but listen, here we are. Here we are. They did a good
50 wins.
job.
50 wins.
Yeah. And it's just, and listen, this is just the beginning. Like nobody is saying, oh, the Knicks have arrived because this particular team has arrived because of 50 wins. This team has to do it in the playoffs. But as an organization, it's seen, I forgot who said it. Was it Van Gundy or somebody said, 50 wins is seen as, like the baseline for a really good team when you hit that 50 win mark. I had the Knicks 47-52 because I felt like the East, I had them second or third in the Eastern Conference standings, but in terms of total wins, I had them 47-52 because I thought the East would be that much tougher this year. You can argue that they were, but this Knicks team, the Shuttle's point, as he outlined it, 15 games without Jalen Brunson. You go 9-7. You sure it wasn't 10-5? All right, we go 9-7. And being without Mitch, so many things happened, for this team. The defense not what we thought it would be, right? And you still win 50. And shout out to Tom Thibodeau. I mean, we may not like the individual things that he does. We may not agree with his philosophy, and we don't have to. He is entitled to it, though, but we don't have to agree with it. But shout out to him. He just stacking wins. He's stacking wins, Now it's about the playoffs, right? For this team and for Thibodeau, it's no longer about the regular season. It's about how you perform in the playoffs. And this is whether he keeps his job or not. I'm not talking about this particular season, but whether he's here for the long haul or not when we win this chip, because I really believe we will, depends on how he performs in the playoffs from here on out. And in another week or two, he'll have that first opportunity. Anything else before we talk about OG? Anything else on Tibbs in the 51 season?
It's funny. And I don't want to drag it, but non-Knicks related, but kind of Knicks related when you talk about the coach, right? And the perspective and how you view your coach, and is he coming back? Fans not being happy, all these type of things, right? The Memphis Grizzlies, a relatively young and very promising team, let go their coach. Let go their coach. And why they let go their coach? Basically, the short version is that there's questions of the philosophy that he's applying and how he's working with his quote unquote star player, Ja Morant. One thing that you have here is you have your star player who looks up to his coach like a father, and his actual father is on the bench too. So when you have that level of continuity and that level of emotional connection with your star player, you don't get situations like what you just had in Memphis. And you don't have what many of you think is we need to replace the coach happening, because you can't in one breath say Jalen Brunson is the star and he's a star player and he's leading the franchise and blah blah blah, but you think the coach should leave when he loves the coach the way he loves his coach, and he's about to have his second All NBA season under him, in 3 years. Like, you can't have both sides, and you have to really look at the value of what Tibbs brings to Jalen Brunson's confidence, stability, and just like empowering him. Like, Tibbs empowered him to be a leader beyond any opportunity he had before coming to this team. Like, you can't say Brunson just he's blew up. Oh, wow, and not give the coach none of the credit. Like, part of that is that relationship. And I mean, and this team would have to bomb in the first round for him to be on the hot seat next season. I don't want to go too far, man, but if you lose to the Cavs or Boston, right now they're better teams. And if you have a respectable showing against them, I mean, to me, it's like we can't even be talking about this guy losing his job, and we should be doing nothing but respecting it and recognizing the value of what he's brought to Brunson and to the rest of the team.
Can I piggyback back off of what Shuttle said for a second? Because I thought this is a fantastic point. So, and Shuttle, you just made me think of this to piggyback of what you're saying. Think about the Phoenix Suns again, just for a minute. You've got Frank Vogel, who won the championship with the Lakers in the COVID season. And now their current coach is Budenholzer, who won it in Milwaukee. So you have had 2 championship coaches in Phoenix the last 2 years, and they have 0 playoff wins to show for it. They're not even in the play-in right now. It'd take a miracle for them just to get to the playoffs with a roster that includes Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. And so fit is important, and culture is important. And yes, Thibodeau has his flaws. Every coach does, right? But if you're talking about building long-term sustainable winning, part of that is having stability at the head coaching position and not having the knee-jerk fan reaction, the emotionality of, oh, we lost this game, or we didn't make this substitution when it was the clear choice that we needed to make, whatever the case may be. But if you take the emotionality out of it and you look at the overall performance and let it speak for itself, I mean, like I said, you're talking about 2 NBA championship coaches, which Thibodeau is not, who are having less success in the league right now with star-studded rosters in many ways. So, look, this is a right fit for this team at this point. That's not to say that there won't come a time where a change is necessary, but you know, if the ship is sailing on the water just fine, you don't need to change the whole bottom section of the ship just to see if it sails different. Like, just let it float, let it go.
Look, congrats to Tom Thibodeau. The bottom line is, it's money time. That's just it. It's money time. Tom Thibodeau, like, we want to fire him for his philosophy. I don't think you fire a coach for his philosophy, whether you agree or disagree. You fire him if that philosophy doesn't pan out, right? You don't fire him because he plays his team, his players more minutes than you think he should. That's his philosophy. But you fire him if they continue to get injured and they're not available in the playoffs, and you have early exits. Then that philosophy has gotten you fired. Not the philosophy itself, sorry, the results of the philosophy. So the same thing, you know. I don't think he could take us that far. This team has yet to play one playoff game. Let it play out. Let it play out. So for me, I try to separate the philosophy, and there's things about Thibodeau I don't agree with. But I feel like the conversation around him is so imbalanced that I spend so much of my time trying to balance out the conversation and bring in those things that he does do well, when I have my own concerns about Tom Thibodeau, and that I'm looking in the playoffs to see, how he does. But I rarely get a chance to talk about it because I feel like the conversation is so, unbalanced. So, this is money time for Tom Thibodeau. I'm looking at those rotate. The thing about it, though, even though I'll say I'm looking for those rotations, like in the sense of which 5 players are you going to put on the court at this particular point in the game to help us. But from coaching myself, I know that sometimes those decisions are 50-50. Do I put in DeLon Wright for his defense? But man, are we going to be able to score? Or do I put in Cam for his offense because we really need to score right now? But is he going to be able to check a 6'5" Cade Cunningham? You understand what I'm trying to say? So a lot of times when, for us, looking at the TV, it's cut and dry. You should do this. But when you're a coach, it's not. You're sitting there like, oh, if I do this, this can happen if I do this. And then you just have to pick one. It's not always cut and dry in terms of what you should do as far as rotations. But I'll be watching that. And I'll be watching this offense. I feel like Tom Thibodeau gives them a lot of freedom on offense. And that could be why guys are shining, right? Julius Randle shined under Pat Riley. DiVincenzo, Fournier before, in terms of his 3-point shooting. Towns, right. Towns, career year under Tom Thibodeau. Hart now, a career year. Brunson, a career year. And I think part of it is the freedom that he gives them on offense. the flip side of that is sometimes I feel like it's too much freedom. Sometimes I feel like you got to call a timeout and tell them they need to get that ball to Cat, or you need to call a timeout and tell them they need to get that ball to Bridges on when he's playing against Trae Young. So anyway, I'm going to be looking to see how the Knicks perform offensively as well. So we'll see. So congrats to Tibbs. But the clock has started on Thibodeau. I'm rooting for him, but at this point in the game, it's about results. Period.
Agreed.
You either winning or you're not at this point, right? Anything else on Tom Thibodeau? 50 games. Let's do something real quick on OG Anunoby. I have a question for you guys. Okay, so OG turned up in the playoffs before he got hurt. At least at that. Well, I think he was playing well in the playoffs, period. But the particular game when he got hurt, he was killing. Then he had a stretch earlier this season where he was killing as well. And this is the second such stretch. So I guess my question, and I think it's too early to tell. I think for us, it's educated guesses. But in your mind, is this just another stretch for OG? Or do you believe this is he's hit his stride. This is his next level, and this is who he's going to be from here on out. Tony, we'll start for you, then Shuttle, and then Geoff.
This stretch that he's in, or these two stretches that we've seen him in this year, one he's currently still in, looks like the game he got hurt in.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And we hadn't seen that before. We've seen good stretches last year, the playoffs being his best stretch, but the game he got hurt in, that's what we're seeing in the two stretches this year. So I think it's here to stay, to be honest. I think it's really been a change in not necessarily philosophy, but a focus on aggression, a focus on being aggressive, and that changes everything.
LB Short jumping out the window. He jumping out the window.
Hey, I see somebody early put OG over Brunson, and
I saw that.
like Brunson's still the leader though.
I appreciate you, LB.
I think this is a stretch that is here to stay. And then if you go back to him prior to coming to New York, him saying, him wanting the bigger opportunity, the bigger role.
Yeah.
And even in that moment, me thinking like, oh, I don't know if you're gonna get that coming here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we did talk about that.
I want you to come here. You know what I mean? So I think it's here. I think this is what he's envisioned. He figured out how to get it, and now he's figuring out how to sustain it.
Yeah, DJ Shutter, I already know your answer, but I'm gonna allow you. I'm gonna take the mic. Go ahead.
You said you're gonna take the mic?
I said I already know your answer, but go ahead, take the mic.
Oh, okay, cool. But let me do it. Let me do a little different for you. In OG's season 2024 for the Toronto Raptors in a 6-game series against Philly, which they did lose, he scored 5 points, 16 points, 11 points, 26 points, 26 points, and 20 points. I think that Toronto was not built to beat Philly that prior season. And I think that was an indication he was coming for prime time. He delivered prime time last year. And I mean, if there's anybody that has the temperament, not to mention a couple of years prior to that, even though, he was injured, but he was part of that championship team. And, and he was, he played a role, he played a role for them. So if there's anybody that has a temperament, second to Brunson to be here for the playoffs and to be cool, to me, it's absolutely OG. And the person that I'm worried about the most, to just digress a little, is Cat. And considering that we look at Cat as the number 2, 1A, 1B with Brunson, the fact that I can feel confident about OG not feeling like the moment is too big for him makes me a little less concerned about my worries about Cat when it comes to the playoffs, because he's somebody that people kind of question in the playoffs. He's in that little bubble with Harden and CP3 a little bit.
Yeah.
Guys that are really good players, have great seasons, and then when the playoffs come somehow, you know what I mean? But yeah, OG just plays too good at defense and is just too much of a dog that doesn't rely exclusively on offense for me to worry about him, because his game is not predicated on, oh, give me the ball, let me just, he's gonna disrupt on defense. He's gonna get a steal. He's gonna get a fast break. He's gonna cut to the hoop. Somebody's gonna pass it to him, and he's gonna get these baskets where he's not needing to be your leading offensive threat per se. So yeah, I mean, he just fits in with the team, and I don't have any reason to feel concerned at this point.
But that's different, though. Well, let me ask you. Don't you think there's a difference between somebody amassing points through the course of a game, through an offensive rebound, put back, a transition basket, a cut to the basket here and there, and somebody being somebody that that I could put the ball in this guy's hand, and I know, at the end of the night, I'm going to have 20. Are you saying you don't think he's that guy yet?
I think that he's growing more into the role of, yo, Brunson, let me get you here. Let me get you in position on the block now, because he is starting to ascend when it comes to getting the ball, having a set one or two moves to kind of bully ball his way into. It's like he's like right now he's like getting into his grown man bag.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
sure.
And y'all little dudes, and I'm the grown man right now. He's kind of getting into that bag, but still, even with that said, his offense off of his defense is such a critical point, and for me to feel like I'm
Yeah.
gonna downplay that, because you can't just get him the ball in ISO and he's going to score whenever you need a basket. No, you got Brunson for that. You know what I'm saying? Cat can still do some of that.
Mhm.
So I just think just collectively what he does, it just the value of it all is I mean, it's indispensable, and you can't really put a
Yeah.
price. You can't put a price tag on it.
Yeah, I agree with Shadow. I don't think it's been him. I don't think it's been us giving him the ball and saying go get a bucket and,
Right.
I mean go break down your man. I think it's really been him being able to score in isolation, but not us going to him in like a full ISO.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I understand.
And then like Shadow said, the bully ball, the attacking the basket, all that is getting him to the free throw line. So that changes the dynamic of, you know what I mean? He may have minimal, he may be 13, he may have 13 shots and still get you 30 points because he's getting an extra 5 at the line. You know what I mean? He's and he's shooting 5 3-point, 4 or 5 3-pointers. So that's an extra point each. You know what I mean? So I think the good thing is he doesn't have to transition into like a quote unquote go-to guy. You know what I mean? I think he's more of a finisher. And that's, but now he's the bully ball, the post play, you know what I mean? That's what's really changing everything. It's not like we're just like, all right, give him the ball, go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's just adding a dynamic to his game. There's still more growth to come, though, I think.
I think it's more growth to come too, but I think like those who talk about he's the best player on the team, he better not. I think that if you ain't somebody that can get your own shot, you can't be in that conversation. But we don't need him for that, like DJ Shuttle is saying, and what he's doing changes everything because he's just all around 3-pointers, driving to the basket, posting up, cutting. He's doing it all. Geoff?
Last game felt insane.
Yeah, it did. I'm sitting there like, oh, I'm in the water park with my nieces. I'm like, oh. Geoff?
With OG right now, it's a heart versus head kind of a thing right now. So I so want, I said before that we started the show, it's kind of like, is it Linsanity or is it leveled up? Is it a flash in the pan fever dream, or is it something that's real and that we can rely upon and that can be counted upon? And as the sample size grows, it goes a lot further in the direction of to be counted on. And the only way that I can really reconcile any of this is to look at it and say, well, what is he doing that's unsustainable?
Right.
In other words, if he was just every night for like a week straight, he was just shooting 75% from three, well, that's not going to maintain over the long haul. But what's gotten him the increase in points and the increase in his efficiency is really just an increase in aggression on his part. And so if he can sustain and maintain that level of aggression, there's no reason to suspect any kind of regression. So to me, if he can continue to attack the basket really hard and be efficient in those attacks to the basket, I think a couple weeks before he really started to bust out, everyone was like, well, he's going to take 11 dribbles and he's going to turn the ball over when he gets it. Well, he's not doing that right now. He's being very concise in what he's doing, and he's taking his opportunities in the full court, and he's one or two dribbles and boom, he's making his move, or he's shooting his shot, pump fake and go, working on the fast break, 360 dunk, why not? But all these things, he's always been all year he's been one of the leaders, if not the leader in the league in dunks. So we know he has that ability to cut and get to the rim. And so I think when you analyze the different parts of his game, as long as the Knicks make it a point to help him stay aggressive and don't just kind of put him in their back pocket, and kind of stifle that aggression, I think that there's a good chance. I mean, it's not definite, but there's a good chance that he can continue on this kind of role that he's on. And if he does, that elevates the ceiling of this team tremendously. If you have an OG Anunoby who's an unstoppable force between three-pointers and drives and dunks, and he's getting to the line, because remember, Cat already gets to the line quite a bit, and so does Brunson. And if you have a third player, and if all three of those guys are getting the free, look, those are the best shots because ain't nobody guarding you on those shots.
Right.
And if he's been making them at a high clip, so if you have three guys who consistently getting to the free throw line, that makes it really tough on a defense.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'll say is this is what I said on Twitter when Alan Hahn was talking about this the other night. I said, let's look at what he does in this Boston game. Let's see what he does against an elite defense, a defense that's going to be well prepared, a defense that can switch everything, a defense that can cause problems and has caused problems for us. Let's see. Now, if he has a bad game, that doesn't mean he's done, but I'm just saying if he's able to continue in spite of those things, if he's able to overcome even with, that more difficult competition, then that becomes, really important for this team. And, it doesn't hurt to relegate Mikal Bridges to the fourth option either. I don't know that that's the best thing for him, but if OG is cooking like this and you have Mikal as the fourth option on a playoff team.
The thing about it is I see OG's offense right now as more opportunistic, open threes, in transition, cutting to the basket, posting up smaller guys. He's just taking advantage of every mismatch he has. He takes advantage of it. And so I could see a game, because he's not, like we talked about, a guy like Brunson. I could see, against a really good defensive team that's taking care of the ball, so there aren't a lot of turnovers, right? who's switching well on defense. I can see him not scoring as many points in that type of situation because there's not a lot of opportunities. We'll see. He might surprise us. He might surprise us and become that dude that, opportunity or not, he could score.
But here's an aspect where it's going to help when you talk about the teams we haven't beat, right? When you talk about the Bostons, part of what we've been missing is not just OG, but somebody putting pressure on Tatum on the defensive end, putting pressure on Brown on the defense, like make them work on the other side. And if he's gonna do that, you know what I mean? I like his chances, even if he's not scoring to this clip. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But these guys are gonna have to work on both sides of the ball every possession, and that levels things out throughout the game. You know what I mean? So I think that's one of the advantages that we haven't really been able to take advantage of as a whole this year. And to your point, Queen, I was mentioning this not in the sense of Mikal so much. I mean, not in Bridges so much, but more in Mikal and Cat this year is taking the advantages you have, recognizing the disadvantages and taking and that's what he's doing. So if we, you know what I mean, if the rest of us could do it, the rest of them could do it as well, it just opens up everything.
Yeah, let me just get to the chat who chime in on this.
I highlighted a few too.
Yeah, I wanted to go back though to let me just go to the start category. Okay. Anthony D, it's different than those last two stretches because he's a much better offensive player. He knows where to find his shot. And when he sees a mismatch, he's like physically just going at weaker players. Yeah, no doubt about it.
Bingo.
Rebuild NYK, OG has discovered that he is stronger than the guys who are guarding him. Yes,
Bingo.
he is. OG learned how to complete at the basket with power. Paris Duggar, Brooklyn Butch. If OG can command the game in the second and third and let Brunson have energy for the fourth quarter, would make a world of difference in our offense. Yeah, OG or anybody else. Yeah. Yo, we watch Bernard King change levels the same way in real time. Yeah.
I didn't get to see Bernard, but I had to highlight it because I'm gonna take your word for it, Parrish.
Nah, let's relax a little bit. Yeah, let's relax a little bit.
I don't think he's saying that he's Bernard King, but Bernard King definitely went from a guy that's like, he's a good scorer. He's tough. He's hard.
Mm-hmm.
But then it was like, in the playoffs, like he just dumped out. I mean, like averaging almost like 40 against Detroit. So,
gotcha.
So I mean, Bernard King. I mean, we talking about my favorite nigga all the time. I went to Bernard King basketball camp, so I ain't gonna let you just throw anybody name in conversations with Bernard King.
Right.
But listen, the way OG's playing, like, it just literally feels like one of the comments said it is that he just realizes now that I'm stronger than these guys.
Correct.
All I have to do is just bully over them. And it's like if you're talking about unlocking it, I think he's unlocked that I'm just stronger than y'all. And there's nothing that you can really do about it. And now he's gonna go to a point where like he could get to the playoffs and he can literally turn into the bully.
Yeah.
And that could be the next level.
Yeah. And just the patience he has. Like, he's not just a bully that's just going in there and knocking you all around. He's like absorbing the contact and slowly and methodically finishing his move. You know what I mean? Like the body control that he's, when he's making these power moves is like this guy. And then you think he has nothing left at the end of the move and he dunks it.
He wasn't doing that before. That's the crazy part. Like, to me, it was steps to his progression.
No doubt.
You know what I mean? It would start with just the little bump getting you off me. Then I'm gonna try to lay it up. It went from the layup to, I'm gonna go up a little stronger. But like you said, Queen, it be looking like he's done. He exerted every effort to move him, to do the spin,
Right.
and he still got the lift at the end.
Yeah, it's
Well,
special.
I,
Shout out to Paris Duggar.
Duggar.
Go ahead.
Let me read this, Jeff, and then you could go. The Euro step through the retreating defender has made OG different and hard to stop. That playing off Brunson gravity has us as real threats now. We need Cat to perfect the same Euro through contact. Yeah, I think Cat is gonna. It's just, I know we get on Cat for his playoff performances, and we're gonna be able to see him in real time up close. But it's really it's easier to stop a center than it is to stop a guard in the playoffs because they're operating in such a limited space. Jeff?
I think this actually goes back to the summertime. I think this goes back to the end of last season. He was off the court in the playoffs at a critical time. And one of Tom Thibodeau's biggest things is getting these guys to work their bodies and have themselves in shape for the grind of an 82-game season. These guys work harder in the off season on getting their bodies prepared and getting ready to make this push at this time of the year. That process doesn't start after the All-Star break. That process starts the day after your season ends in April, May, and June. It's the work that you put in the weight room and all of those things. That's what's giving him the strength and to be able to dominate the way that he is physically and do those things. So I think, and I don't think that's anything that he's done in the past with his other coaches. And so I think that Thibodeau, being in Thibodeau's system and with his philosophy, and I think you see it with Josh Hart. I think you've seen it with Jalen Brunson. I think you saw it with Julius Randle. You see these guys are bigger, they're stronger, they put in the work and they trust in that work. And when you put in the work and you trust in the work, then it's just a matter of muscle memory. And now that's what it's becoming. It's becoming muscle memory for him. He knows he can do it. It's just a matter of going out there and boom, I'm going to get it done. And there's nothing you can do to stop me because I'm bigger, I'm faster, I'm stronger. And knock on wood, but this was a guy who missed 25, 30 games a season pretty much every season of his career. And he's been extraordinarily healthy, knock on wood, this year. But I think that goes back to the strength and conditioning that he did in the offseason, getting his body ready, knowing that this was where he wanted to be.
Yeah. I'm trying not to get too hyped about the second season of the Knicks before like watching them in the playoffs, but I'm excited about just seeing this team grow together over the seasons with some possible tweaks here and there.
It's like I've been saying all season, and Shuttle kind of mentioned it earlier. You got to just enjoy this ride. You know what I mean? Like, enjoy the ride. It's a great view. You know what I mean? Look to the left is scenery. Look to the right is scenery. Sure, it gets a little bumpy at times, but we're going to get to that destination. We're going to get to that.
Just a matter of time.
Just a matter of time.
Yeah.
And if you speed, you get a ticket. So you can't speed. You know what I mean? Just cruise control. You're going to get there.
Yeah. Before we get into this week's game against Boston, Detroit, and Cleveland, the Knicks are pretty much locked into the third seed, right? One win or one loss by Indiana, and they clinched the third seed. Once that happens, what do you want to see for the two games after that? Let's just say that happens against Boston, and we have two games left. What do you want to see as far as rotation and minutes?
Well, there's 3 games. Don't forget we close against Brooklyn on Sunday.
Oh, that's right.
So it's 4 games.
4 games. Oh, I didn't even see them up there. It was an early game. Yeah, gotcha.
I want to see some increased minutes for the guys that Tibbs is planning on utilizing on the back end. You know what I mean? We know what the top 5 is going to get. I don't think Brunson's minutes is going to. I think he's the only starter whose minutes shouldn't go down. If you know what I mean, like just because he could get back in game rep and game time situation, it'll also give him an opportunity, maybe playing less with the rest of the starters to kind of, you know, be utilized in that role of we need you to do this, we need you to do that, get him back into that. You know what I mean? But the McHale's, the Cats, the OGs even, and Josh Hart, I wouldn't mind a slight minutes decrease from them guys. But that's just me wishful thinking because I know who Tibbs is. So I don't think. I mean, we haven't been in that spot before where we're locked in at the position. Maybe this changes things, but I don't think so. And I definitely don't think Brunson is going to get the rest just because he already mentioned he needs the rep. There's nothing like the game rep to get you back into rhythm. But the rest of the guys, I would like a decrease, even if it's minute, even if it's slight. You know what I mean? I would like to see him maybe utilize the guys who's on the bubble of you know, being in his rotation, and the guys that you know, hey, I got a role for you. Let's see if you could continue to utilize it with more time.
Yeah, I would like to see Cat sit. Bridges, though, I think ever since Bridges made those comments, he's averaging like what 32, 33 minutes a game or something like that.
I don't know, but I know they said Hart and Bridges are leading the league 1 and 2 in minutes.
No, I know, but I think a lot of that came before.
So I mean,
the
but
comments.
54 minutes a game.
For that to be, what I'm saying is for what you're saying to be true, that would mean all the other guys' minutes, non-Nick people, drop dramatically.
No, not really, because if you're talking, when did he make the comments? Like 14 games ago? Like it would take a lot for you to drop. Like it like a drop in 8 minutes a game may not take you out of the top few spots. You might need to because we're talking about 60 games of, you know. But I don't know. I'm just curious to see what his minutes were after that. Shuttle, what would you like to see once we clinch that 3rd spot as far as minutes is concerned? You on mute.
It's a little tough because you know, we got Boston and Cavs coming up, and you can say that these games don't mean anything, but you know, the idea that you could be potentially playing one of these two in the second round and then in the finals of the Eastern Conference, you know, you want to have some level of confidence that you could beat these guys, and you know, nothing gives you confidence about beating somebody other than beating somebody. So, you know, especially the Boston game, you know, coming up, I don't think they're going to cut their minutes off on this first game. You know, they may cut back a little bit, but you know, they've got nothing to really play for. But you know, I like to see the team get the Boston win. That'll make me the most happy. And this way, you can start really resting some guys against Detroit and Cleveland because you know, you're likely playing Cleveland. Rather, you're likely playing Detroit in the first round. So maybe you want to sit Mitch for that because I don't know if Mitch has played against Detroit yet this season. And if he has, only one game. So, you know, I would scale it back against Detroit, give them the vanilla offense, treat it like a preseason game. That's what I would like to do. You know, if you could clinch by beating Boston. So to me, beat Boston, and then from there, just you know, scale it back. Play Mitch minimal minutes. Obviously, don't play him on the back to back. And Brunson, you gonna play, but you ain't playing all that much.
Geoff?
So you got to relax.
Well, I think to your point about McCaw, he's only played in the last 20 games. I think he's only breached 40 minutes 3 times, and one of those was an overtime game. So his minutes have come down some since his comments. I don't remember the exact date of that he said that, but I'm just saying I looked at the minutes log, and it does look like, I mean, he's still playing a ton of minutes, especially without Jalen. but the minutes have curtailed a bit since he made those comments. To be honest, we have home court advantage in round one, so it doesn't really matter to me. I mean, I don't want to lose the rest of our games, obviously, which is what it would take. But even if the worst case scenario happened and we fell to 4, I don't think it's that big a deal. Like, if you did fall to 4, you'd be on Cleveland's side of the bracket, and I think Cleveland's a better matchup for us than Boston. I could be wrong about that. Cleveland's killed us this year too, but Boston, when they're healthy and those 3-point shooters and their size, is just a nightmare. But and I think we're going to see that tomorrow, to be honest. But you know, I kind of like, I agree with Tony and Shuttle. I think we play Brunson, get him lathered, get him ready, so that game one he's completely back to as good as he can get for conditioning wise. If Cat's knee is even bothering him in the slightest, I have no problem with him sitting out the game. Like, there's no need to play hero ball with this. I would like to see Brunson kind of get reacclimated to the other starters.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't think you have to do that in 30 minutes a game, but I think just at least in 12, 14, 15 minutes, just with the starters, just kind of working their stuff out with the new revised role, with OG playing better, getting McCall maybe some more looks. Cause I kind of feel like the best version of the Knicks would be one where we're getting scoring from Bridges and Anunoby, and then we're relying on we're relying on Brunson and Cat really when we need them, as opposed to them just being our crutch, which I think, especially at times after the All-Star break, Brunson was really our crutch until he got hurt. Everything was going through him and everything was relied upon with him. And we know, for whatever reason, Towns has a Houdini act in the playoffs. Sometimes he'll have great games, a couple games, and then he'll disappear. Well, if we can have some stability and continuity in there, that would really go a long way. So just, you know, working through those guys, getting Deuce a bunch of minutes, making sure that he's back up to speed because he missed a bunch of games. I'd like to see him get some burn, and anybody who's really they consider a rotation piece, just get them on the court. There's no need to have any more Josh Hart 40-minute games from between now. Like, just get him down to 30, 32 minutes, and I think that'll be good. I think that's pretty much a good number for everybody. And then, you know, fill in those minutes with whomever off the bench. And if you want to give some of those younger guys a look in those last couple games and let them, like, let's say we do beat Boston, you know, and there's nothing to play for the last week. Yeah, give Kolek a start, give Daddy some burn, you know what I mean? Because those games aren't, you know, they're not going to affect you in the standings one way or the other. Let those kids play, let them see what they can do. And then the only other thing is about that is with the play-in, it's really 2 weeks until almost 2 weeks. I think it's 12 days till the first game of the playoffs for teams that are 6 seed and above. So that's a long layoff.
It's a long off, yeah.
If you just sit everybody. So I think you have to have at least 24 minutes of, you know, regular rotation play from your starting five.
Right. Because rhythm counts as well, but how much rhythm are you going to have no matter what you do this week, right? When you have 12 games off, that's going to break the rhythm also. So we'll see. We'll see. I agree, though. I would like to see the starters get some minutes together, right? But they don't need 38, 40. They don't even need 30 minutes.
Should be max. Yep.
30 max. 30 max.
You play the first half, and that's it. You know, you play whatever you play through the first half, second half, sit down.
Yeah. Nick said, we need to play the combination of players that are playing in the playoffs together against real competition. I agree with that, too. So how do you manage all of that this week? Right. Rest, rhythm. Guys have been out, like trying to reintegrate Brunson with the team, you know, and how we've been playing.
You
Yeah.
know, I think to my point, I was just mentioning, like, play the guys in the first half. All right, guys, listen, I need you guys to go hard. You guys not gonna play the second half. Let's get some good reps out there. You know, treat it like almost like a game 3 in the NFL, the game before the last game in the preseason. You know,
Mhm.
you played a halftime, and let's make it happen. Get your work in, get your reps, get your shots. We're gonna run through you. We're gonna run through you, and everybody get a chance to do what they do, and then y'all gonna sit down after the half.
Uh, size 9, I don't know. We've seen it. Brunson can't win you a game by himself. I think he
He shouldn't
can.
have to with this roster.
Can he win you a series by himself? Probably not. But a game? Yeah. And to Jeff's point, he shouldn't have to. First 3 quarters, play 3 quarters. Okay.
I'm fine with that too.
Yep. Any preference for Detroit or Milwaukee? And why?
I don't have a preference, but it's not because of confidence. I mean, I feel like Tom Thibodeau. Like I feel like every team is a threat. You know what I mean? It's gonna be different things for different teams that you got to game plan against, and you know what I mean. Like, but overall, it's like I'm not gonna pick a team because I'm more confident to beat that team over the
Right.
other. I think both teams, either team, could be scary in their own right. You know what I mean? Detroit don't have, you know what I mean, ignorance is bliss, or if that's how if that fits, you know what I mean. But they don't have the experience to know how, you know what I mean, like to be worried. You know what I mean? Like, so that's scary. And then Dame could turn it on if he come back. He could potentially turn it on and be the greatest version of himself. We know how dangerous Giannis is, and not that either one of them I'm not confident we could beat. I do think, but at the same time, I think they're both equally a threat in different ways.
Right.
So no preference.
Jeff Shuttle.
Yeah, see, this is like a trick question because I mean, you can't really be calling out another team saying I'd rather play that team. You can't really do that. That's bad energy. That's bad vibes. That's bad karma. That goes against all my principles. I'd have to be saging my laptop queen, and
What's the pros and cons against playing Detroit or Milwaukee?
I like that question. That changes everything. Now I speak freely.
See, Tone. I was gonna play that game. Tone was. You know what I'm saying? Listen, how you say queen? I have. I gotta. What's the term you say? I gotta.
Condition.
I got a condition. I got a condition. I got a condition. I can't let you do that. So I think with the pros, obviously the cons against Milwaukee, obviously, you got Giannis who's won a chip, you've got Lopez who's won a chip, you've got Dame who's one of the biggest, big shot makers of all time. And they're not gonna go into the playoffs and go against the Knicks and feel like 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 the moment is too big for any of the important and valuable players on the team. They're also tough, they're gritty, et cetera, et cetera. So but the pros to me playing against them is that while I know Giannis, you can say he's a good defensive player. I mean, just as a whole, I don't look at them as a very good defensive team. I think that they're one of the few teams the Knicks could run them out of the gym against, and there ain't really that many teams the Knicks could do that against. So, I feel like offensively they could kind of do their thing, and and I don't think that they have great depth on their team. For Detroit, yeah, they're new kids on the block coming to the party for the first time. And yeah, I know Lillard was hurt. I didn't know he was out. Like I thought he would be back in the
He had
playoffs.
a blood clot.
Blood clot.
Also, so he's out.
It's indefinite, but the last I heard from reports is the blood thinners are taking effect. So I would assume that that brings his timeline, even though there was no timeline. You know what I mean? That means it's more of a possibility of him being ready for the playoffs than just the blood clot news. He's on the blood thinners and it's working.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, obviously, then hope his health gets well. That's a serious injury. So definitely want him to make a healthy return next season. But but yeah, I mean, obviously, if Dame is out, you got to feel a little bit more confident going against Milwaukee. But still, you don't sleep on nobody. But Detroit, like you said, ignorance is bliss, tone, and you're new to the party, and you come in here to just play ball. And if it's anything that gives the Knicks trouble, it's highly athletic, young wing players, and this team is fully loaded with that. I mean, Cade is putting up all NBA numbers. He's got a case to me for at minimum second team all NBA, and and Thompson is a defensive monster, just like his twin bro. This guy Duran is a monster in the paint, and we know what Oxtail beef stew is down low. we know what he's doing. You know what I mean? And you don't really got anybody to match up against what he does specifically unless you're gonna put PJ Tucker in the game. So yeah, I mean Detroit's tough. So that's the cons against them, and the pros. They haven't been here before, so hopefully the lights are a little big for them. They haven't been in playoff travel before, and media, and the bright lights, the coverage that they haven't seen, and that causes them to have a negative impact. But you gotta respect both teams. They're in the playoffs for a reason, and Detroit's been really hot going towards the final 20, 30 games of the year, and they come in for the smoke.
Yeah.
Hey Queen,
sure.
can I? Mm-hmm. I'm not gonna re-answer it because I know.
Yeah, no, go ahead. You can.
No. I really just want to add because I had the same sentiments as Shuttle for the most part. But one thing that makes and you guys tell me if you agree or not. But one thing that I think takes away from the inexperience that Detroit has is the fact of what they went through last year. Because I'm a big component of you got to go through something, right, to kind of get level up. And the fact that they went from a historically losing year where I think that was in all sports, right? You know what I mean? Like, so to me, that kind of thing, you go through that, mind you, in the midst of going through that, they were losing games by a point. 3 points, 5 points. You know what I mean? So even the margin of victory in those losses wasn't huge. They wasn't getting smacked. They just didn't figure out how to win, how to close out a game. To me, that's what makes them more dangerous than a typical inexperienced team, because they had that turmoil of the historically losing season, and the only thing they really did was change some veterans. Brought in some better veterans around those young guys,
and the coach,
and the coach. You know what I mean? But so yeah, I think that kind of levels out or balances out their inexperience. The fact that they experienced something really nobody has ever experienced in the world. You know what I mean? In life. So they have that to pull from and kind of motivate and things of that nature.
Yeah. Geoff?
Well, the Detroit blew like a 20-point lead at home against the Kings tonight, so it's looking more and more like it's going to be Detroit and not Milwaukee. Milwaukee's actually won like 4 in a row or something like that.
They do have the 2 last games of the season against each other, though.
Yeah, they do, but it's getting to the point where it looks like Detroit may have to win them both.
And
'Cause
Detroit,
games against us, so I
Detroit
mean,
may feel like they want us.
they may, they
You know what
may,
I mean? I'm just throwing
they
it
may
out
live
there.
to regret that too. I you know, I, here's the thing, and maybe
Jeff want all the smoke. Go ahead, Jeff.
maybe this is hubris, maybe this is being an obnoxious Knicks fan. I try not to do that, but I guess I am sometimes. But I'm not real worried about who we play. I'm worried about how we play. Like if this Knicks team plays to their potential, they're going to win a series against Detroit or Milwaukee.
Yep.
If we don't play up to our potential, we can lose to either one of those teams real easily.
Yeah,
but if this Knicks team takes care of their business and does what they're supposed to do, they will make the second round of the playoffs. Now, the reason I have that confidence is that we have something that Milwaukee without Dame and Detroit don't have, and that's the Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson has proved it in the playoffs in a way that nobody else on either of those. Well, Giannis has, but Giannis is a big man. It's kind of a little bit different, but I really feel like Jalen in the crunch time, that is a weapon that none of those other teams really can give you. And I think he gets amped up. Wasn't he putting up Michael Jordan like numbers in the playoffs at one point last year with just like 40-point games and all this stuff. So we know he's got that extra gear that he can kick it into. And he has a better supporting cast than he's ever had. Not to disrespect last year's team, but Julius Randle was not healthy for the playoffs last year, or there's an argument to be made there. But with Towns and everybody, and starting with the Boston, knock on wood, it looks like we have all of our players back. Full cast of characters. This is the most talented team that Brunson has had. And Brunson typically makes the second round of the playoffs. So I think, knock on wood. But I think I'm much more worried about what the Knicks do in-house than who the opponent is or what they're doing. Because I feel like if we're playing our best basketball, we're the fourth best team in the NBA behind OKC, Boston, and Cleveland. Put them in whatever order you want. But I honestly believe that. So if we play up to our potential, and I think that we will, I'm not overly concerned about the opponent. That's why I said if we slip to 4 instead of 3, it's not a huge deal as far as I'm concerned. And it would take a Herculean task for that to happen. But even if it does, I'm not overly concerned about it. I'm much more concerned about being healthy and everybody being up to speed, up to code, ready to go when that ball tips for game 1 at MSG, regardless of the opponent.
Yeah, I agree. It doesn't matter to me which one. I think Detroit is going to be a tougher out than maybe a lot of us think. And even though they don't have the playoff experience, the games would need to be close for that lack of experience to maybe even come into play, right? So they're going to be a tough, deep, defensive-minded team. And that's what they have going for them. And obviously the lack of playoff experience. Milwaukee, anytime you got Giannis on the team, you have a chance. And if Dame comes back, now you got a closer. Because the thing with Giannis, he's not somebody that's going to close the game for you. Put the ball in his hand, get you a bucket. That was Middleton when he was there, and now Dame, right? So if they're without Dame, obviously if the games are close, as Parrish Douglas says, we got a guy, but the game's got to stay close. So I'm with all of you. I'm not going to take anything for granted. If we're playing our best ball, it don't matter who we play, we're going to win. And if we're not playing our best ball, if we're Brunson centric and they got small guys on Cat and we not going to it, and they got a little guy on Bridges and we not going to, then we can lose to any one of those teams. Sure. So, yeah. All right. This week, does it even matter? We got 50 wins. What are you looking for in the last 4 games?
I mean, as much as the starters do play, or the rotational guys do play, just continue to build off each other and build some chemistry. You know what I mean? That's the one thing. This is literally the first time we've been whole all year. If you really think about it, Mitch came back. Brunson got hurt either the same game or the next game, and you know what I mean. This is his first game back, so really we've been whole for a stretch of where we got 4 games left. Let's say 6 games all year where we've been 100% as a full roster and full team. So as much as I want to build as much little bit of chemistry as we can in that time, you know what I mean? You can't really expect much. So it's really about just continue to grow. We're going to have to grow in the playoffs as well. We can't go in there as a finished product thinking we're peaking. We got to continue to get better, even in the playoffs.
Let me ask you this question. Given what you just said, would you be upset at Thibodeau if his philosophy is we're whole for the first time? I want to take these 4 games and work our playoff rotation, get these guys reps together because, we haven't played together.
I'm not mad either way because I'm one of the people that has accepted, Tibbs. Like regardless, when I don't agree with him, you know what I mean. The results make me say, okay, I don't agree, but I'm not going to argue with you. You know what I mean. So if he does it, he does it. There is a significant time of rest after the season ends, going into the playoffs. So maybe that's the recovery they need. And he always says, even with practice, that doesn't replicate game time, so game experience. So if he's relying on that, I'm not mad. You know what I mean? Because I understand it. But that's not necessarily my preference. You know what I mean? Gotcha. So either way, whatever he does, you know what I mean? However it goes, I'm just enjoying the ride.
Anybody else have any comments? No? All right. Any last words?
DJ Shuttle live, Woodman Lounge tomorrow night. Hello, after work. Ladies free, ladies night, ladies free all night. You know what I mean? We on that Queens, Far Rockaway, Long Island borderline. Bow, it's gonna be amazing. We still on that iHeart every Friday night, 8 to 10. Stay in tune with the kid. A lot of big things coming up. I'm coming to H-Town in case y'all ain't see me yet. I'm rocking with the hottest relationship podcast dude right now, Truth Hurts. We just hit New Jersey. When we hit DC last weekend, I'm going to H-Town. We're going to be in Houston on June 7th. Big movie, big situations out here. Passports, flights, we out here moving. All aboard. Let's go.
Aboard.
Let me know if you're going to be in Atlanta at any point.
We're definitely playing an Atlanta show as well.
Okay. All right. That's what's up. Any last words, Geoff, Tony?
I'm back. You know what I mean? Got the new apartment. I'm still settling things up and unpacking and things, but I'm back. So at the very least, expect me weekly. If you missed the show earlier, go back, Knicks and Bruises, check that out. Shutter was on with me. Sim made a special guest appearance out of nowhere, so that was great. And yeah, man, go back. It's time. Appreciate you, Queen.
Yeah, appreciate you, Geoff. Any last words?
Had an article this week about the 1951 Knicks team. That was the Nat Sweetwater Clifton's rookie year, and really good Knick team that made the finals. So if you're into Knick history, please check it out. And I've got a piece coming out tomorrow that's about a lot of the stuff that we talked about tonight. So if you have time, awesome, you want to check it out, I'd appreciate it. Other than that, Shuttle, is always an honor and a pleasure. Tony, you know the drill. And Queen, the hostess, we appreciate you making this all happen. And Sim, the podfather, for putting us all here to begin with. So
shout out to Sim for sure. It's been a minute. I ain't seen Sim in a minute.
Sim be back on at like 10:30. So
Oh, okay. All right.
prepare for the Podfather tonight. I'll be making my appearance as well. So
There you go. There you go. Shout out to Jarrell. Peace.
Tony rocking like Stephen A. Smith, hitting all the shows tonight.
All right. Shout out to the chat too. Nostalgic Nick, Old Head, JM3000, Paris Duggar was in the house. Jarrell, you already know. Muhammad KGB, size 9, super active today. Rebuild NYK, Nick Yak in the house. Appreciate you. On Dios NYK, holding it down. Get those likes up, family.
And I can't forget, I want to say, I believe her YouTube page is Dimples. That's one of your biggest fans that I saw on the road at a party in Poughkeepsie. And she said, "Wait a minute, are you DJ Shuttle from Dope Soul Sports?" and I said, "Yes, that would be me." And she said, "Oh my God, I watch you and Queen all the time. She is so dope, blah, blah, blah." So, you're doing big things out here, Steph. They saluting you through me. And I want to just pass that on to you.
I appreciate that. I appreciate Dimples and all those that, we focus a lot on the chat, but we got to keep in mind it's when we have the live shows, right? Then you meet people and they be like, "No, we're not in the chat. I'm not in the chat. I'm not in the chat." That there's people listening who are not in the chat. So shout out to the chat, but shout out to the replay gang, but also shout out to those who listen and are not in the chat. We appreciate you as well. Thursday, we have a game Thursday?
Yep.
We play two.
Tuesday, Thursday, Friday.
Tuesday, Thursday, Friday.
So we got to figure out if we are going Wednesday. I know you can't make it on. This is Dope Soul Sports Talk. Our weekly show is usually Thursday and the next play. So we got to figure out an alternative day, either Wednesday or Saturday.
I can probably be there just a little bit late on Wednesday after church services. I'll get home. So if y'all want to just start, I'll just catch up. I probably should be able to catch most of the show because I don't think I have an elders meeting on Wednesday night. So I think I can just come straight to services.
Wednesday would be better for me as well. All right. Until next time, family. Appreciate you.